Hello everyone, I hope this week finds you well. If you're new here, my name is Jessica and I'm a licensed mental health counselor. This is where I talk about all things mental health, even the hard things. I want to take a second and talk about storms. We all have experienced them in our lives. There are storms that bring the occasional wind and rain. However, sometimes in our life, we face Category 5 hurricanes. I live in Florida, so I can see how you may think I'm talking about literal storms, but I'm actually referring to trauma and grief. They're very closely related, you see. The Category 5 represents catastrophic moments in our life. Maybe it's the death of a loved one and the world stopped turning. Maybe it just became harder and harder to catch your breath. Maybe you've suffered abuse at the hands of someone else, and you're stuck trying to sort through the wreckage of someone else's rage, putting the pieces back together, trying to remember who you were before. Maybe it was a diagnosis that was not expected, and the prognosis is not good. There are many different Category 5 storms out there, but one of the telltale signs that you've experienced one is that there is a clear difference between the person entering the storm and the person who emerged after. Unlike the actual weather, we normally don't have control over or even a sense of predictability with regards to trauma or grief in our lives. It just happens, and most of the time out of nowhere, leaving little to no time to prepare. Category 5s are dangerous because they often disorient us and leave us in shock, trying to scramble to protect ourselves both physically and emotionally. Emotions are represented by the waves crashing around you, threatening to consume you. The goal is not always to make the storm stop, because we just don't have that kind of power. The goal sometimes becomes survival. It becomes, how do we get to the next moment? Because storms don't last forever. Even the biggest storm can be weathered. But you need what I like to call anchors. What are anchors, you ask? Well, there are things that ground us or provide us hope within the midst of the storm. They don't have to be big things, but sometimes they are. Let me share some of my personal anchors or things that I've used in the past so you can get a better idea. During my worst storm, my first thought was of my Nana. She is the embodiment of unconditional love. I visualized going home and just being in her presence. I closed my eyes and saw her front entryway with all her plants. I can see it clear as day, and my heart feels lighter just thinking about her and home. I know how privileged I am to have that anchor, and I also know that many people do not. Maybe you don't have a healthy family system to depend on. Your anchor does not necessarily have to be a person. Maybe it's your faith or belief system. I'm a Christian, so for me, it was the symbolic representation of wearing a cross or having a life verse to hold on to. Many religions offer hope and faith. But hear this, even if you're not a religious person, you have value and you are worthy as you are. Maybe your anchor is as simple as something positive someone said or something they saw in you that gives you hope to hold on. Never underestimate the power of strangers. I've personally read hundreds of stories of how a smile from a stranger literally saved someone's life. They needed an anchor to get them to the next moment. In order to heal, one needs distance from the storm, but in the middle, you need anchors. Maybe your anchor is not tangible yet. I know mine for a long time was the dream of having my daughter. I wasn't even dating at the time, but that dream kept me going. I had no idea if it was ever going to happen, but it let me hang on. It allowed me to dream, and where there are dreams, there is hope. Everyone is different, and everyone has different storms and different anchors. I challenge you to find them, appreciate them, and cultivate them. There may come a day when you have to rely on those anchors to get you to a better tomorrow. The goal is to survive the storm, give yourself time to heal, because one day you may be needed as an anchor in someone else's story. On that day, you can give them hope, knowing that survival is not easy, but it's possible because you're the living proof, and that's the strongest anchor of them all.